Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to this AVA Trustees webinar titled A Parent's Guide to Sustainable Education Planning from Cradle to Career. It's our pleasure to welcome you on the call this afternoon. I'm going to be introducing our speakers soon, but just in case you don't have your pen, your paper to take down notes, please grab it now. You're going to be getting a lot of good information that I'm sure you're going to want to take advantage of eventually. So please do take the opportunity to write down what you're learning today. And we're pleased to welcome you, as I said. So to take us straight into this conversation, let me just make sure that I'm not echoing and everyone can hear me correctly and loudly without any echoes. So if someone can just let me know, just a quick sound check that the sound is okay. If you can drop a message in the chat, that'll be great. All right, so today we have a professional trust advisor in the house, someone who's been in this space for over a decade and brings a lot of experience in the private trust space. He's also someone who has a vast experience in corporate trusts and public trust, but today we'll be drawing on his private trust expertise. He's also currently the MD of AVA Trustees, so it's our pleasure to have him on this call today. He's also the Chief Marketing Officer of the AVA Group, so it's my pleasure to introduce our key speaker, our featured speaker for today, Mr. Sheung Ido. He will be taking us through what an education trust is, the basics, and why it's important to start thinking about the education trust for your kids now. So I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Sheung Ido. Thank you very much for being here, and we're glad that you could take out the time to do this. So please take it away.
Thank you very much, Moyo. Good afternoon, everyone. It's truly a pleasure to be here with you today. I'd like to thank the entire AVA team and Moyo for organizing this timely and very important conversation. So let me start this way. As a father and a fiduciary professional, Moyo has also done other introductions. I totally understand the pressures parents and guardians face when planning for their children's future, especially when it comes to education. In fact, there's a very recent publication by a financial services firm that outlines the average cost of education in Nigeria. This report or research highlighted both public and private education, the cost of it, of both public and private education, from primary school all the way to university. And the figures will make anyone reflect on the importance of planning for education, and hence this webinar. So let me try to redact the figures here. I hope I remember everything correctly. And I must warn you that those figures are very conservative, So what the research says is that private primary education ranges from between 613,000 to 1.9 million annually. Private primary education. Don't forget that we are only focusing on private primary education here. We're not even going towards the public one. Private secondary education ranges from between 750,000 naira to 2.8 million naira. And then private university education ranges from between 900,000 and 1. I'm not sure whether that figure is totally correct, but it goes up, depending on where exactly you're taking your word to or your child. So today I'll be speaking strictly about education trusts. What they are, why they matter, and more importantly, why now is the best time for you to set one up. You know, but in order to even get into that, people they want to take it for granted that everybody knows what a trust is. So I think it's important to first of all define what a trust is, and I believe we should keep things pretty simple. Instead of delving into legal or known or traditional definitions. So I like to define a trust as a composite tool, a legal and investment instrument or device in one, a bundle, which can be used for so many purposes. It's a legal instrument because a trust is used to ensure succession, that is, to pass on assets or wealth to the next generation or to loved ones. So it's also an investment instrument. I mentioned that it's a legal instrument on one hand. It's also an investment instrument because the assets or funds have to be strategically grown to ensure that that succession that I mentioned actually happens, or simply put, to ensure that your loved ones are actually left with something to inherit. I guess that's the word that we're particularly used to, or something to be passed on. So let me explain that a bit more. So there is an abundance of fact that wealth or assets not properly managed does not get to the next generation. It is often filtered away. So let's get that fact. And maybe if time permits, maybe I just drop this. And this from personal experience. So my own father passed in 1998, breadwinner of the family. But I was extremely lucky that I had or still have family members who took on the responsibility of making sure that my siblings and I got educated. But as I grew older, I got to understand that not everybody was that lucky or is that lucky, and this is not just to say this is only about death. It is just everyone making sure that they put proper plans in place. So let me just go straight into um, why we're here. Having laid the background for what the simple definition of a trust is, it is important that I go back to the focus. That is the use of trust for the education of children, wards, or loved ones. So an education trust is therefore a trust specifically set up for the education of children, wards, and or loved ones. Remember that I mentioned that a trust can be used for so many purposes, but an education trust in this case, what we are trying to tell you today is that an education trust is a trust specifically created for the education of children, wards, or loved ones. And I'm pretty sure that you wonder why there needs to be a trust product or service for education. I'm certain that there are many other questions, but the truth is that as we go on, we'll understand that. Or let me go back to that. The truth is that education can alter the trajectory of a child or any human, or the lack of education or thereof can alter the trajectory of any child. Let me stop there. And then because we're still going to go into many other things. Moyo, I don't know if you want me to go into other details or you want us to, do you want me to pack it here at this point, or do you want us to go, do I go into the other things right now?
Yes, you can go ahead
Okay.
for another 10 minutes.
Okay. So, because I wasn't sure whether time is still our friend. Okay, so how does an education trust really work? First of all, I'd mentioned earlier that it's an investment, it's a composite tool, it's both a legal plan, let me put it that way, as well as an investment plan. So the legal side of it ensures that succession happens. The investment plan part of it also ensures that that succession happens, but you're sure that whatever it is that you're committed in terms of assets, in terms of funds, in terms of money, actually grows, which is why you have in the background, you have wealth managers actually ensuring that whatever it is that you have set aside for education actually grows and actually meets the goals that you have. So whether you want to send your children to Harvard or whether you want to send them to Covenant, you're sure that that plan is there to ensure that there's enough funds to make that work. The beauty about it also is that an education trust can be structured in so many ways. And for the most part, it allows for periodic contributions. So you can do monthly contributions, you can do lump sums to cover a year. You can do lump sums to cover 5 years, depending on how you want it. So it's quite flexible and it's a beautiful product, actually. So that is it about how that works. It is just keep it at the back of your mind that it's a flexible product or service, you know. And if you ask that, okay, so why trustees? What is the role of trustees of managing and or securing the fund? You know, by definition, you know, trustees actually act in a supervisory role. You know, trustees actually act in a supervisory role. So what that means is that while the portfolio manager or wealth manager who is charged with ensuring that that fund grows does its work, our job as trustees is to ensure that your goal as a parent and then actually is in sync with how that fund is managed by the portfolio manager or by the wealth manager. And I mean, by the time we go into the panel session, we'll have our investment professionals speak. Now, another thing that I think it's important for me to highlight or to harp on is that if you say, why do we need to have an education trust, you know, there are a few things, you know. First of all, it ensures certainty and protection. You know, your education trust ring fences the funds, meaning that they can't be touched for any purpose other than your child's education. You understand? In fact, the way it's structured is such that we pay directly, you know, apart from managing the fund and all that and making sure that it grows, there's capital appreciation, we pay directly to schools. So once you give us the fund, we ensure it grows, but then we pay directly to schools. And then, so, you know, I don't want to harp on whether this is about, oh, when we're no longer around in terms of death. It's also that, you know, it's a private arrangement that ensures that you don't have any other person trying to make decisions or trying to poke their noses into this fund. It's set aside, ring fenced for your children's education or for your ward's education or whatever it is. So creditors can't touch it. If the unfortunate case of a divorce happens, you can't touch it. Family members, like we know, we're in Nigeria, can't touch it. You know. Second thing to note is that, you know, should anything happen to you, if you're incapacitated, if we're all going to die, even though nobody likes to talk about it, but should anything happen, the trust continues uninterrupted, ensuring that your child's educational journey is not derailed by uncertainties. You know, I gave the example earlier of how my father died in 1998, and I was extremely fortunate. My siblings and I were extremely fortunate to have people ensure that our education was not interrupted. It's not the case now, and 1998 is totally different from now, you know. So those are the things that we want to point out. Another beautiful thing about this is also that it is professionally managed. You know, I keep alluding to the fact that not only are we here as professionals, fiduciary professionals, we have a team of lawyers, investment managers managing the fund. So you keep it, there's no idle cash. You keep it invested until it is required for school fees. So through our partnership with licensed asset managers, we ensure that the funds grow, and it keeps, they're professionals in the sense that they're always looking at different things, ensuring that they stay above inflation, or keeping pace with the rising tuition costs, and all that. And then, for everyone, the planning is tailored. Everybody's circumstances are different. So your trust can be customized to fit just you. Can be customized to fit one child, multiple children from multiple marriages, or one or two marriages, let me put it that way. Uh, and of course, one other beautiful thing is that you can use it for international schooling. In my experience, people usually go for this, because you want your children to go after secondary school to go to universities abroad. So you need to plan for that. You can stagger your disbursements. Sometimes you can even embed your moral or religious values into a trust. I guess when we go into later, we'll go into how a trust deed is later. I guess when the legal expert is talking. So to round up, you'll be wondering why now? Why do I need to set up a trust now? Why is it so urgent? And the answer is simple: constant volatility. Education costs, like I mentioned earlier, are rising, both local and international, rising at an average of 10 to 15% per year. What I paid last year is not what I paid this year. In fact, because my daughter is moving from primary to secondary school, I'm at the point where I'm paying for the primary school and the secondary school at the same time. Trust me, it's not easy. If one didn't have a plan, I'll probably be out of breath by now. you know. Um, the other two other reasons, maybe I should say, is that currency instability. We know how this is, and inflation. We know what has happened in the last 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So it's simply that inflation can erode the value of your cash savings. So if you keep it as pure savings, cash, you might not achieve your objective, of planning for your children. Also, um, you know, last thing is actually that life is totally unpredictable. You know what that means. Waiting can simply mean you're taking a huge risk. So by setting up an education trust right now, you can begin, and it's not never too late to start anyway. You can begin building that fund in a very disciplined, tax efficient, and sustainable way. Keyword sustainable. You give yourself a peace of mind of knowing that no matter what lies ahead, your child or children's future, world's future, loved one's future are secured. Let me stop there for now. But see it as uh, a financial tool. It's a legacy. It's a statement that says I care and I'm intentionally planning for my child or children's success. So at AVA Trustees, we're proud to walk this journey with you with the right structure, expertise, and we're known for our integrity to ensure that your vision is protected. I look forward to the panel discussion where we'll even dive deeper into how education trusts work alongside asset managers, legal advisors, to deliver real impact. Thank you very much. Permit me to drop the mic here.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Shemido, for that expose on education trust. I'm sure anyone who came into the meeting uncertain about what an education trust is has a good, solid idea of how it works now. So you've taken us through what it is. It's a legal setup that allows you to ring fence funds for the purpose of your children's education, and it allows you to provide for them in the way that you want to, leaving those instructions just in case anything happens, in case of incapacitation or death, even though we don't want to talk about that, but it does happen. So that is a good place for us to, begin to ask the questions to the panelists. So I'm going to be introducing our awesome panel today, our stellar panel. Okay, am I back? All right, great. So our first panelist, I've already introduced our key speaker, Shirido. He'll be back on the panel. He's our trust expert on the panel today. So please do note all the questions you have, from his session, and you can drop them in the chat. I'll also be introducing Vera Ojo. She's senior analyst with AVA Global Asset Managers. She's our investment expert on the call today. And the third person we have on our panel is Faith Alaya. She is a trust advisor and also a lawyer. So she would be bringing the legal angle to the trust setup, while Vera will be bringing the investment angle to the education trust setup. All right, and of course, I am your moderator, Moyo Durjai, and it's my pleasure to have you all on the panel session this afternoon. All right, so we'll jump right into it. I'm going to start the questions, but please, for our audience, for our attendees, please do make sure to drop any questions you have in the chat. I'll pick them up as we go along. Thank you. All right, so first off, I'll start with Shirido. What makes the education trust a better option than simply saving or investing or using insurance for saving towards your child's education? What makes the education trust a better option for parents?
Thank you, Moyo. So let me start again, or let me emphasize one of the things that I mentioned earlier, which is that first thing to note is that an education trust is a succession plan. So think of it this way. So when we talk about succession, we're talking about you making sure that wealth or assets. Don't let me use the word wealth because it may look bigger than what it is right now. To make sure that the funds that you have set aside gets into the hands of the people you wanted to get into the hands of. So what makes it better is that it's more than it's more than a savings plan. It's also more than an investment plan. It's also more than an insurance plan. And I'll try to explain that very simply. Let me take the insurance plan, for example. The insurance plan is an assured, what you get at the end of the day is an assured sum. You know how insurance works. So you pay a premium maybe every year or even monthly in some cases. And then at the end of the day, you have a fixed figure that you're getting. In short, you're not getting the benefit of it getting invested. You're seeing the fund grow, which at the end of the day is the best option when you're thinking of, okay, hedging against inflation, for example. An insurance plan won't take care of that, and that's the truth. The savings plans also won't take care of that. And just pure trying to do the investment yourself won't take care of that. The best thing to do is to put it in the hands of experts who are not only investing for you, they are saving for you. It's also an insurance of some sort, and it's a legal document. Let's not forget that. It's a legal document that is binding on all parties. It's also a private arrangement in the sense that not everybody needs to know that you have it there. Of course, there are other ways. Maybe Faith will talk about that. But I think that will give you perspective from that angle. It's a higher form of investment. Let me put it that way. It ensures succession. Uh, it in fact, the way we say it is that a trust is a higher form of a will. You understand? It does more than what a will will do. So let me park it there, and I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it most certainly does. Thank you. So it's a legal document, a private arrangement, an investment plan, and it does a lot more than an insurance or savings plan can do. Thank you very much, Mr. Shewendo, for that. So I'll move on to Vera, our investment expert on the call. So I want to ask, once the money is moved into the trust by the parent or the guardian, how does the asset manager, I mean, in this case, grow that fund? And I want to just point out quickly that we are privileged as AVA trustees to have AVA Global Asset Managers as a sister company within our group, and we're able to leverage on what they do to actually actively help our clients make money, grow their funds, and beat inflation, essentially. So that's the reason why, I'm so glad to have Vera on the call today. So Vera, once again, once the money is placed into the trust, how does the asset manager then grow the funds?
Thank you so much, Muyo. So getting right to your question, our role as fund or asset managers is to manage funds in simple terms, to make sure it grows over time in a disciplined way. So we first start with having a discussion with the trustees on the appropriate risk profile, because every child, every family has a different timeline and different needs. So the right investment will depend on how long you have until your child starts school, and then your risk appetite. That's why it's crucial to start early and stay invested. Then we build a portfolio, which typically includes a mix of, say, mutual funds, money market instruments, and other regulated investments. This helps us reduce risk and ensure that no single investment has the power to derail the plan. In the early stages, when the child is quite young, we lean more towards preserving capital, ensuring that the capital does not erode, while also introducing growth gradually, especially as we benefit from the power of compounding. During this period, we do what we call portfolio rebalancing, which is just constantly monitoring market conditions and adjusting the portfolio when needed. We have a research team that helps us with data on market conditions. So we are not just making decisions based on the instincts, but data. At the end of the day, the goal is very clear. We want to make sure that when the time comes
and put them back
to at the end of the day, the goal is quite clear. We want to ensure that when the time comes for tuition or school fees, the funds are not only available, but they have grown in a way that supports your child's future without unnecessary risk.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that answer, Vera. So of course, just to summarize, you have a conversation with us on the trustee's end, and then you understand what the client wants. You come up with a workable plan that makes sure that the client sees asset preservation, and of course there's a chance for you to also grow that wealth based on some of the research you do in-house. Thank you so much for that. We're proud to be associated with your brand. Okay, now we go to the legal side of things. So I'll be asking Faith this question. What are the legal safeguards that protect the beneficiary of an education trust? So in this case, the beneficiary is typically the child, the ward, the that the parent or the guardian wants to provide for. So what are those legal safeguards within the trust setup that protects the beneficiary?
Thank you very much, Moyo. Going straight to the question, generally, the trust is usually guided by a trust deed in Nigeria. Trust guided by a trust deed, which sets out specific instructions that the settlor of the education trust wants to put out for the benefit of the beneficiary. Now, for the trustees, we have a fiduciary duty to the beneficiaries of the trust, which includes proper management of the funds, making sure that the asset managers they are specifically doing what they ought to do, especially based off the instructions of the settlor of the trust, accountability and compliance with the specific instructions of the trust deeds as set by the settlor of the trust. Where a trustee fails in their duties, the beneficiaries can seek redress through the courts, through the legal means. But it is also very important to note that a layer of protection that can be added is by appointing a professional and a SEC registered trustees. This would help in making sure that you are legally covered. Your beneficiaries are legally covered.
Okay, awesome. I love that question, especially because you did mention the regulators. As AVA trustees, we are regulated, heavily regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. And so we just can't do whatever we like. We have to actually abide by those laws that protect the investing public. And of course, that includes the beneficiaries of a trust. So as Baker said, just to summarize, the trust deed is that document that protects the beneficiary. And in the instance where, the trustee doesn't abide by the trust deed, the beneficiary can actually bring legal action, seek redress, and even escalate to the regulators. All right, awesome. Thank you very much, Faith, for that question. So quickly to move on back to Shemun, how do trustees ensure that funds are used strictly for the intended purpose over the years? How exactly do the trustees do this?
Okay, thank you again, Moyo. So let me piggyback off what Faith had mentioned. First of all, there's a trust deed, which binds all parties. So it's a legal document which binds all parties. And I've also mentioned, for example, that, okay, so if we look at the structure of how the trust is run, an education trust is run, if you look at it from the PR process, for example, so things like I mentioned earlier, payments are made directly to vendors and schools, so this includes all providers of services that you may have specified in your trust deed, which fall within the purpose of the trust. So, the providers will send so when I say providers, mostly schools, they'll send their invoices to us to support any payment, and we pay directly to them. Then for an education trust, you're not, that's a differentiating factor. No payments can go directly to any other account other than what is stated either in the trust deed or in your instructions. So it must be to the particular school that, there are many reasons for some of these things, but they are all embedded in the trust deed. Some of those details are embedded in the trust deed. And of course, we usually ensure that we make our independent inquiries, Another thing that I would love to mention is that, when we say, and maybe that will dovetail into what Vera was saying earlier, but, a trust, an education trust offers competitive returns, relative to, like I mentioned earlier, traditional savings and insurance plans. Then there's also the issue of capital preservation because it's a trust, and an investment plan like Veros had mentioned. You're sure that your capital, it is structured in such a way that your capital is preserved. So whatever it is that you break, you're sure that in the few in within the time, whatever time that you're laid out, yeah, your capital will definitely be preserved. So Vera and her team will ensure that they're investing the principal and the accruals in a low risk, high quality instrument, ensuring that your children's awards funds are always protected. Then there's the issue of compounding. Which is also tied to what we're talking about. We as trustees will ensure that we continually. So this is apart from this is in line with what the wealth managers are doing there and the team. We'll ensure that we continue to reinvest, so no idle cash. Continue to reinvest your income back into the fund, ensuring constant and compounding growth. There are so many benefits. I mean, I know I'm talking about the benefits now. There's so many things that we can talk about, So we as trustees are sitting in a supervisory role to just ensure that your fund is totally utilized to the maximum. Nothing, no idle cash in short. Let me put it that way. There's the issue of liquidity. Schools are paid every term. We ensure that we retain a portion of the funds kept in short-term investments so that we can access the school fees whenever we want to. So many other things, to top it all, you have expert. I need to continue talking about that. There are expert advisors in-house. Your fund, your trust fund, the education trust fund, is managed by a team of seasoned fund managers, certified advisors, lawyers, who apply their expertise to ensure that they optimize performance and of course minimize risks, and then, like I had said earlier, ensure succession. So let me stop there. There are so many things to talk about, but that's just to give you a bird's eye view of all the things that we do to ensure that you're totally protected, your funds are protected.
All right, thank you. Just to recap that a bit, so how we ensure that as trustees essentially is that we ensure our strong supervisory roles in terms of how those funds go out, why they go out, when the instructions are given, and when the requests are made in from the schools and the vendors. And then, of course, on the investment side, we're also ensuring that the fund managers, who, of course, are experts in their own rights, keep the objectives of the trust in mind as they invest and as they seek to compound and grow the funds. Thank you so much for that answer again, very concise and straight to the point. Okay, next we go back to Vera. So again, just to, I guess, broaden that answer that Sheung just gave us on how we ensure that the purpose of the trust is achieved. What are those strategies that the asset managers would typically employ in balancing the safety and growth of the education trust funds?
Okay, so before I answer this, I want to also point out that AVA Global Asset Managers Limited is regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So our investments are also regulated. So to answer your question, balancing growth and safety is at the heart of what we do when managing education trust investments in general. It's really about finding that bridge between helping your money grow and protecting it, especially as the time to use it gets closer. When the child is still quite young, we have, say, 10 or even 15 years ahead. So we are comfortable taking more growth risk that's when we may invest in more higher quality investments or equity funds, because over time, they tend to deliver stronger returns. But as the years go by and we are closer to big education milestones like university, we gradually start reducing the risk. This just means shifting to risk investment like bonds or money market funds. This way, we are locking in the gains made during the growth phase and avoiding big surprises right before when funds are needed. This is actually very similar to how retirement plans are managed, but the education trust is designed to move with your child's timeline, steady, thoughtful, and always with the goal of meeting their future education costs with minimal stress.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Of course, at the heart of what you do is always keeping the beneficiary in mind, keeping their needs in mind. And so all the strategies that the asset managers would be employing would always have their safety, the safety of their future, of their education in mind. So that's very, very helpful to put the minds of the parents and the guardians at ease. All right, so we come back to our lawyer on the panel. So Faith, this question is for you. Can a parent customize the trust to reflect their unique values or family situation? I mean, religious considerations, special needs that they have. Can they customize the trustee to reflect their needs as a family?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yes, so one of the biggest advantage of an education trust is in the flexibility. Like Mr. Shewad earlier mentioned, that an education trust is not rigid, is not a one-size-fits-all. It can be specifically tailored to whatever situation, to each settler's wants and situation. If you have 5 children, 10 children, and you want to accommodate them as beneficiary to your trust, into the education trust, it can fit. If you have special instructions as to how you want the funds to be administered, as to what kind of school, what are the things that need to be checklist, the checklist before funds are paid, the trust deed is going to accommodate all this. Also, it's important to note that education trust is not restricted to just your immediate family. It could be to anybody, anybody, as long as specific instructions is given in the trust deed that earlier stated, then it can fit into anything.
All right. Awesome. So Faith has just told you that, it's not a one size fit all. We can definitely tweak the basic structures of the trust to accommodate your unique needs. Okay. Now I'm going to ask Vera one more question, and then we'll start to take the questions in the chat. Please, if you have questions, I can see them coming in now. Please do feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll pick them up just as we wrap up the panel session. Okay. So Vera, this one is a very practical question. How do you align the investment plan with the projected educational needs and timeline of the child? So of course, for a lot of the parents, especially parents who are, well, new parents like me, and we're thinking ahead, trying to plan a few years ahead for our child's education. We want them to go to Harvard, and the fees are in thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. How do we align working with you and the trustees, the plan, the investment plan with the educational needs that we are projecting our child would have in a couple of years?
Okay, this part is where financial planning and real life actually meet. Every child's educational journey is different. So whether it's going to University of Abuja or Babcock or even Harvard, like you said, we start by working closely with the trustees to map out that path. We'll look at the child's current age, the projected start dates for various school levels, estimated costs, and even inflation. And then we create a timeline of when money will be needed. And we use this as our roadmap. Then we match the investments to that timeline. If university is expected in 8 to 10 years, we make sure a portion of the portfolio is designed to mature around that time. Early educational needs like primary or secondary school would require more immediate liquidity. So we also account for that. Like Sheon said, we structure your child's educational trust to suit the timeline. So if you want the trust structured to a monthly contribution or through lump sums, it is up to you. I'll give an illustration. If you are setting aside 100,000 naira monthly at a 10% annually rate for a tenure or for a timeline of 15 years, that will roughly give you about 41.8 million. But then starting 5 years later would give you like 20.6. So the idea is to start early. And if you are just saving that amount every month, at the end of the timeline, you have just 18 million. So you see the difference and the benefits of having an educational trust. So it's all about being intentional. We don't just chase returns, we invest with purpose to make sure your child's future is secure and uninterrupted. And then if circumstances change, which they often do, we review and then we adjust. The strategy is very much flexible, but the goal remains the same: to meet your child's educational needs with confidence and clarity.
Perfect. I couldn't have said that better. Thank you very much for breaking that down. And I hope we all caught that example. You know, the difference between starting today and investing versus starting in 5 years almost halved, what you could, potentially get, or you could potentially be giving your child. And, starting a savings plan without, putting it in a trust or investing, will also not exactly, maximize those funds. So the message is clear that the best time to start may have been 10 years ago, but the next best time is now, right? So of course, taking the action today will make a world of difference. So thank you very much, Vera, for that answer. I'll pass it now to Faye for the last question I'll be asking you. I mean, the questions that are coming from myself. What are the common legal pitfalls people should avoid when setting up an education trust?
Okay, so when setting up an education trust, like I've earlier mentioned, having a trust deed is very, very important because the trust deed sets the guidelines for the trust. Without a trust deed, there is more or less no trust, no education trust in place. That's the very first common mistake to avoid. Another thing to avoid is failing to fund your trust. I mean, it's one thing to have an education trust, it's another thing to fund the trust. Because where the education trust isn't funded, there's nothing the asset managers can work with. And we cannot carry out instructions as trustees without funds being in the education fund. Also, another mistake or pitfall to avoid is being too restrictive in your instructions. Like Mr. Sheon had earlier pointed out that things change periodically, anytime, at any time. The increase in school fees cannot be determined. So where, for instance, a specific amount had been put in place by the settlor of the trust to the funding of the school fees in 5 years, I mean, if, for instance, the current school fees is at 100,000 naira, in 5 years, it might not be like that. So it's best to give a bit of flexibility where the trustees in their professional capacities can make decisions best for the benefit of the beneficiaries.
All right, awesome. So first off, making sure you have a solid trust deed. Number two, fund the trust. And number three, leave the room for the expert advisors you have in the trustees to help guide the direction of the trust. Okay, thank you very much for that answer, Faith. To my final question, which will be going to Sheol. So we've gotten all this information, this lovely information. Can you then explain how a trust is activated? So I'm ready to start today. What do I do next? So how is the trust activated? And where do we go from here?
Thank you, Mario. Very, very simple. First of all, of course, reach out to us and then to kickstart the process, right? But then a trust is activated upon your execution of the trust deed. So we give you. So let me put it this way. First step is you appoint us as your trustees to create and manage the trust fund. Then we'll sit down with you, to agree on the proposed structure of the education trust, right? To discover your key objectives. And then, of course, we'll also tell you how the trust will run, and then, of course, we go from there to signing the trust deed, which was what I meant by executing a trust deed. So once we've agreed on all terms, we sign the trust deed with you, and then the last step is for you now to transfer the funds into the trust to effectively activate it. That's just it, simple. So it starts with reaching out to us, and then end, for this stage, with funding the trust. It's plain and simple. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So to help with that bit of reaching out to us, you can actually schedule a free consultation. It's free 99. You don't pay for the free consultation to just reach out to us and discuss the options. My colleague will be dropping a link to book that consultation in the chat briefly, so you can just save it. And then you can reach out to us. Thank you very much to our panelists for answering our questions so insightfully and giving us a lot of information that we can actually work with, practical information we can work with. Okay, the link to book a free consultation with AVA Trustees has been dropped by my colleague Precious in the chat. So please do well to reach out to us. I will be more than glad to speak with you and take the conversation further. Okay, so just as we wrap up, I'm going to take a few questions I can see in the chat. And before I let our panelists go, I'll just direct them to whoever I deem appropriate. So the first question says, as a young couple who just got married, how can one be a part and beneficiary of the education trust fund? So I think I'm going to direct that, although I know we've touched on it, so we can just briefly, reiterate. I'll push this one to Sheol. How can a young couple who just got married be a beneficiary of the education trust?
I believe we've answered it already. So just contact us, reach out to us through the various media that we've provided. And I like the fact that you've said that you're a young couple who just got married. Funny thing was that the first plan that I ever had for the education of my child, I had it before I had a child. I had it before I before I got married. It wasn't a trust, but okay. I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. So just reach out to us. I was saying that I started a plan before I got married, before I even had a dreamt of having a child. So it's quite commendable that you're thinking of it now as a young couple who just got married. So just reach out to us. We'll set up something for you. Um, and just start putting something in it now, build it up and you see it yourself grow, and that's it. Uh, you can, you can have a locking period also to ensure that, of course, since there's no child yet, I believe, you can just watch it grow over the years. And then when it's time to start making distributions to schools, then we start. Thank you.
Okay. Looks like I'm going to be directing a lot of these questions to you. So the second one is again, Cheryl, how do we handle the issue of paying the cash to the wards or child's school account directly, having not known the school of your wards yet?
Okay, so same thing, like I think my last paragraph was regarding just keep building it for now. There's no school yet, there's no child yet. So what you'll be doing at this stage will just to build. So we'll sit down with you and then we'll decide on, okay, how exactly do you want, what is convenient for you? Do you want to do monthly contributions? Do you want to do annual contributions to build towards this? Back then I did monthly contributions and it wasn't much back then, but then it built nicely into a nice sum at the end of the day. So, like I said, when it's time to make those distributions, for you to, in fact, think of it as a journey, because at the end of the day, with you from before anything even happened, up to the stage where we come for your child naming ceremony, and then from there, when you want to choose schools, we're there for you as well. And then we can now sit down and say, okay, I want my child to go to this particular school. How much do you think I need, to put away? And then the trust team and um, the wealth management will sit with you to decide all this. So that's it. Just that.
Okay. The final question is, what is the lifespan of the education trust?
Okay, so your education trust can run for as long as you want it to. I don't want to go into the mechanics or the how do I put it now? The details or the legalities of how long a trust can actually last. But then, if you think about it reasonably, what is the average lifespan, or what is the average period that a parent spends educating a child? So let's say, let me see, 664. That's 16 years, plus or minus, if you want to get all the way to PhD, maybe. Let's say everything is within 20 years, at that stage, the beauty also is that your education, but that's delving into something else. Your education trust can easily morph or change into a full-blown living trust, but give or take, if we're starting like the young couple that we're talking about, this is still a question I'm answering. If you start from age 0, then we're looking at us being together for 21 years, maybe, So lifespan depends depends on you at the end of the day. It depends on how long you want to do this. When we're starting with you, I don't know what that question is regarding the limit. I don't know if it's that there's a limit, a cap to contributions. I'm not quite sure what that is. But then we can always work with you. We will once we sit with you, we'll tell you what the options are. and then you will tell us what exactly you want to achieve, what you can afford also, and then we'll work something out for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have officially run out of time, but we'll just quickly take the last two questions. I see that haven't been touched on at all. So we have, what is the minimum investment I can start with for my child's education trust? That's one. And then two, how accessible are the funds in the education trust? So Shirley, if you could please also help us with these two questions, and then we'll wrap up. You're muted, just in case it's...
Okay, so minimum investments. How do I put it now? We try not to start with a minimum. Like I said earlier, you have the option of sitting with us, and then we'll look at what it is that you can afford now. Do you understand? I would say that for anybody who wants to start building now, because we have somebody who says, "Oh, I just want to start from scratch. I don't have a child yet." I'm wary of saying, "Oh, bring 1 million." Do you understand? But the truth is that whatever it is that we can start with, even if it's not going to start strictly as an education trust first, we'll know how to advise properly. But so different things for different strokes for different folks. So just sit with us and then we'll determine.
Okay, and then the final question is, how accessible are the funds in the education trust?
Oh, okay. So accessibility, I think I also mentioned that already. So the beauty of the education trust is that, like I had mentioned earlier, you can access it. We'll structure it in such a way that, for example, if your children's school fees or your child's school fees will fall every quarter, right? Like most, I guess each term is about a quarter of a year. We can structure your trust fund, your education trust in such a way that what we're investing it in will be short term, So in that way, it is accessible. You understand? We also have a robust web platform where you can view your trust fund portfolio online with ease, so you can also monitor. That's another aspect of accessibility. So there's liquidity on one hand, and there's just accessibility. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. It does. And I think with that, we've officially come to the end of the panel session, the Q&A session, and the webinar as a whole. So first off, thank you so much for answering the questions. Our panelists, Sashiwido, Faith Alaya, and Vera Ojo. We're so grateful for the knowledge and the insights that you brought, the unique perspectives you've also brought to the webinar today. So I'll just do a quick summary for everyone of, I guess, the points that have been shared today. First off, the education trust is a legal structure that allows you to ring-fence funds for the purpose of protecting your children or ward's education, with our unique advantage of having AVA Global Asset Managers as a sister company. We're also able to ensure assets preservation and appreciation as well. So when funds are put into your education trust, you are able to actively grow those funds. And of course, we are SEC licensed and regulated. And so we ensure that we do everything by the book and complying by the relevant laws. And of course, for more information, if you're ready to take that step to set up an education trust for your beneficiaries and your wards, do reach out to us. We have the link to book a free consultation with us, and you can do that. And from there, we'll be able to build a tailor-made education trust for you and your beneficiaries. So once again, thank you to our attendees for coming on the call, coming on the webinar. Thank you for listening, asking questions and engaging. And of course, thank you to our dear panelists and our featured speaker for today. We're grateful for everyone's time, and we hope to see you all again. Thank you. My name is Moya Durjai once again, and it was my pleasure to moderate this call. So this is bye for now. Thanks, everyone.